I'm going to share with you one of my all-time favorite use cases in Gecko, and this is using webhooks in conjunction with Gecko data to do some really interesting things. The premise of this is really simple. I've got a booking form for interviews. I'm going to be running a series of interviews, and the person who's running these interviews wants a really simple spreadsheet that they can check anytime that shows them precisely who's booked on to what interview time slot. So far, so straightforward. Now, we have our booking form, we have our event set up, everything's good to go. We're going to use webhooks to push information from the event to update this spreadsheet. So whenever anyone hits submit, it's going to create a new line in the spreadsheet showing who it is who's filled the data in and show their interview time slot. And to do this, we're going to use Gecko, we're going to use webhooks, and we're going to use a free tool called Pipedream. Now, you can also use Zapier. That's a really, really popular, very well-known program. I like using Pipedream because it's free, whereas Zapier charges for use of webhooks up to a certain limit, so I find it's a little bit easier to test and play around with. But sit back, and we'll go through everything in terms of the setup. Now, the very first thing that you want to do once your form and event are built is to go, in this case, into Pipedream or Zapier if you're using it, and create a new workflow or a new Zap, depending on your system. For Pipedream, we'll call this our interview time slot workflow. We're going to select HTTP webhook. Again, in Zapier, it's called webhook. And we're going to we're basically generating an endpoint that we can push our data to from Gecko. So for Pipedream, this is the URL that it's wanting us to push information to. And I'm actually going to do this from the event. I'm going to go into my interview event on Gecko. I'm going to create a new workflow, and I'm going to make this trigger on a session level. I'm then going to say if anyone signs up for a session, what I want to do is send a JSON webhook to this URL. And now I'm going to book a time slot. So I'm a student, I'm booking in, let's say it's the 9 a.m. time slot I want to book. Pop in my details really quickly, as fast as I humanly can, because it's not very interesting watching somebody select things on drop-down menus. So we'll submit all of that information, and we're going to hop back to Pipedream or Zapier. Now, it's looking out for information. Gecko's pushing that form, that information to this link, and we can see there's a new event that's been received. If we click that, and we actually go into the body of this information, we can see there's a lot of information that's been sent over. The title of the event, the time that this has been created, all of that lovely rich information that we've captured from the student here. So what I can do is I can then say, yep, that's super. You've definitely caught the data. And this is where it gets interesting. It's caught that webhook information, and we can now tell it what to do. Now, we could create an entry on an Airtable. We could integrate this with HubSpot, for example. That's a really popular action for users of that CRM. Or in our case, we want to add a new row to our interview attendance spreadsheet. So our interviewer can check this at any time. So we're going to click Add Row to Google Sheets. I've already configured this because I've been logged in quite a lot to my account, but we'll say this is the name of the spreadsheet that we want to link with, the interview attendance. It's sheet number 1. And does the sheet have headers? Yes, it does. And it's actually pulling those headers in. So we can see full name, email, level of study, program, interview time slot. It's taken everything in column A. And what we do here is remarkably simple. If you remember at the very beginning when we caught that webhook, we've got all of this data. It's a case of matching it up and saying, well, you know what? In the full name cell, so column A, what we want is the full name of the student. So we can go down here, we can find that information. It's going to be here somewhere. More contact details, brilliant, full name. So put whatever is in that part of the webhook in this cell. We'll do exactly the same for email. Find the student email address, and I've probably scrolled past it, and you'll be infuriating, being like, Johnny, come on, didn't you learn? Level of study is taken from the contact record. I'm pretty sure we've gone past it again. Find the level of study, perfect. We'll find the program. I'm determined not to scroll past it this time. Program of interest, and crucially the interview time slot, which is taken from, I think, the attendee information. Yep, here we are. Perfect. So we can then test this, adding a single row, and hopefully that comes back positive. Otherwise I'm going to have to pause this and debug it. Okay, and that has successfully deployed. If we check back on our spreadsheet now, we can see this information has automatically appeared on our spreadsheet. All well and good. Now, the really exciting thing about this is you can choose to deploy the workflow. You can do multiple actions, but this workflow has now deployed, meaning if another student comes along, we can say they book onto the 11 o'clock time slot. We can say second student email. I'm terrible at email addresses. Let's just hammer some keys and see what happens. Let's say this person's a graduate, modern languages, and this is a year of entry. If we come over to our spreadsheet, we should see, hopefully, in fact, we'll go over to Pipedream. We should see that particular workflow is executing, and as soon as that says it's done, yep, we can see that information is automatically updated on the spreadsheet, meaning that this can just be a really good single source of truth for an external person without having to worry about things like attendee exports.